The champagne was expensive. Zora could tell by the way it didn't burn going down, just slipped smooth as silk across her tongue, leaving nothing but the faint ghost of honey and pear. $45 a glass, probably. Maybe more. She took another sip anyway. Tonight, she was pretending to be someone who belonged here. The Seoul Contemporary Art Gala was everything her research had promised. Sleek, exclusive, dripping with the kind of casual wealth that made her stomach turn and her journalistic instincts sharpen. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings that seemed to stretch into infinity. The art on the walls probably cost more than her childhood home. And somewhere in this room was the story that would make her career. Zora, internal. 3 months of cultivating sources, 6 weeks of dead ends, and finally, a tip that the Kwon syndicate launders money through art acquisitions. She adjusted the small gold hoops in her ears, her mother's, worn for luck, and moved deeper into the gallery, her simple black dress understated among the designer gowns swirling around her. That was intentional. She wasn't here to be seen. She was here to see. Zora. Internal. The painting. Find the painting. Her source had been specific. A piece by a deceased Korean artist, recently discovered and authenticated. Convenient timing, considering its estimated value had jumped from nothing to $12 million in the span of a month. The perfect vehicle for moving dirty money. She found it in the East Wing, away from the main crowd. A swirl of blacks and deep reds on canvas, violent and beautiful in equal measure. The placard read, Descent. Park Min-ho, 1987. Zora pulled out her phone, pretending to check a message while discreetly photographing the painting and its documentation. Click, click, click. Stranger. You're either very interested in brushwork or very bad at corporate espionage. The voice came from behind her, low, measured, with the faintest trace of an accent that suggested Korean but something else too. Something refined, international, dangerous. Zora's heart slammed against her ribs, but she'd been in tight spots before. She turned slowly, composing her features into polite confusion. Zora. Excuse me? And then she saw him. Kwon Jae-sun didn't look like a crime lord. That was probably the point. He looked like old money and older breeding, tall, lean, devastating in a black suit that probably cost more than her rent. His dark hair was slicked back from a face all sharp cheekbones and sharper edges, his eyes so dark they seemed to absorb the light around them. Cold, she thought, empty. But then he tilted his head slightly, studying her, and she saw something flicker in those depths. Not warmth, something more like curiosity. Jae-sun. Your phone. The angle was wrong for a selfie, and you've been staring at this painting for 11 minutes without once looking at the artist's statement. Zora. Internal. 11 minutes. He's been watching me for 11 minutes. She should be afraid. She was afraid. A cold thread of it winding through her chest. But fear had never stopped Zora Chen from doing her job. Zora. Maybe I'd just like the art. Jae-sun. Do you? He stepped closer, and she caught his scent, sandalwood and something darker, like smoke from a fire recently extinguished. The scar she'd read about in her research peeked from his collar, a thin white line against golden skin. Zora. I think it's beautiful and sad. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, quickly concealed. Jae-sun. Most people see only violence in Minho's work. Zora. Most people don't look hard enough. The words came out before she could stop them, honest and unguarded in a way that was dangerous here. But something about this man made her want to be honest, to see what happened when she stopped pretending. Bad instinct, Zora. Very bad instinct. Jae-sun was quiet for a long moment, his gaze roaming her face like he was trying to read something written there in a language he'd forgotten. Jae-sun. You're a journalist. It wasn't a question. Zora. Internal lie. You need to lie right now. Zora. Yes. Damn it. Jae-sun. Who do you write for? Zora. No one, at the moment. I'm freelance. Jae-sun. Ah, the hungry ones. You're the most dangerous. Zora. Is that what you think I am? Dangerous? The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close enough. Jae-sun. I think you're standing in front of a $12 million painting with photographs on your phone that could raise uncomfortable questions. I think you walked into a room full of wolves wearing nothing but confidence and a borrowed dress. Zora. It's not borrowed. Jae-sun. And I think you have absolutely no idea what you've stumbled into. So yes. He leaned in, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. I think you might be the most dangerous person here. Her phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. Zora frowned, breaking eye contact to glance at the screen, and her world ended. The first notification was from her college roommate. Zora, I'm so sorry, call me. The second was from her mother. Baby, don't look at the internet. Just call me, please. The third was a Google alert with her own name in the subject line. Zora, internal no. Her fingers trembled as she opened the link. The gallery, the painting, the man watching her with those dark, knowing eyes. All of it faded to static as the images loaded. Pictures of her. Intimate pictures she'd taken for one person. One person she'd trusted with everything. Her body, her secrets, her future. Marcus. The headline screamed, Investigative journalist Zora Chen's private photos leaked, full gallery inside. Zora. Internal. No. She was going to be sick, right here on this polished marble floor in front of Seoul's elite and the man she'd been trying to investigate. She was going to... Jae-sun. Breathe. The command cut through her spiral. She looked up, meeting Jae-sun's eyes, and found them changed. The curiosity was gone, replaced by something harder. Focused. Jae-sun. Whatever it is, whatever you're seeing, you can't change it by standing here, but you can decide what happens next. Zora. You don't understand. Jae-sun. Then help me understand. She didn't know why she showed him. Maybe because he was a stranger. Maybe because she was in shock and needed someone, anyone, to witness this moment. Maybe because those dark eyes held no pity, only patience. She handed him her phone. Jae-sun's expression didn't change as he scrolled. His face remained impassive, carved from stone, but his jaw tightened incrementally, and when he looked up, the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jae-sun. Who did this? Zora. My ex, Marcus Webb. We broke up 3 months ago, and I guess... Her voice cracked. I guess this is his revenge for me moving on with my life. Jae-sun. The photos were taken consensually? Zora. Yes, but that doesn't... He had no right. Jae-sun. No, he didn't. Something in his tone made her look at him more closely. The cold detachment was still there, but underneath it, barely visible, she could see something burning. Rage, not for show, not performed. Real rage, controlled and dangerous, contained behind walls of ice. Jae-sun. Do you have somewhere safe to go? Zora. My apartment, but... Jae-sun. Not tonight. If this person knows your address, it's not safe. Zora. He knows my address. He used to live there. Jae-sun's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, a decision had been made. Jae-sun. Come with me. Zora. What? No, I don't even know you. Jae-sun. You know exactly who I am. That's why you were photographing that painting. Zora. Internal. Of course he knows. He's known from the beginning. Jae-sun. I'm offering you a safe place for the night. Nothing more. In the morning you can walk out the door and we'll pretend this conversation never happened. Zora. Why would you help me? I was investigating you. Jae-sun. Were you going to write lies? Zora. No, the truth. Jae-sun. Then I have nothing to fear from you. He extended his hand. Tonight you're not a journalist and I'm not a target. Tonight we're just two people who met at a gallery, and one of them needs help. Zora looked at his hand. Elegant, strong, probably capable of terrible things, but also steady, certain, waiting. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Another vulture circling. She took his hand. The car ride was silent. Jae-sun made no attempt at conversation, simply sat beside her in the back of the black sedan while Zora's world collapsed one notification at a time. She turned off her phone eventually, unable to bear any more messages, the sympathy, the curiosity, the cruelty from strangers who thought they had a right to her body just because they could see it. Zora. Internal. 3 years of work, building a reputation as a serious journalist, and now everyone's going to see me as just, this. The penthouse was on the top floor of a building that seemed to touch the clouds. Jae-sun led her through a private elevator, past a living room that could have fit her entire apartment inside it, to a guest suite with a view of the Han River glittering in the darkness. Jae-sun. There are clothes in the closet, various sizes. My assistant keeps it stocked for occasions. He paused. Not occasions like this. Zora. Do you bring a lot of distressed women home? The question was sharper than she intended, defensive in a way that made her wince. But Jae-sun didn't seem offended. If anything, the corner of his mouth curved slightly, the ghost of something that might have been approval. Jae-sun. No, you're the first, Zora. Lucky me. Jae-sun. There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself to anything. The bathroom has... Zora. Why are you doing this? The question stopped him at the door. His back was to her, and she could see the tension in his shoulders, the rigid control that kept every movement precise. Jae-sun. When I was 19, someone I trusted betrayed me, used information I'd given them in confidence to destroy something I cared about. He turned, and for a moment, just a moment, she saw something raw in his eyes, something that looked almost like recognition. Jae-sun. I know what it feels like to have your trust weaponized, and I know that the first night is the hardest. Zora. What happened to the person who betrayed you? The warmth vanished. The ice returned. Jae-sun. They learned that some debts cannot be forgotten. He said it simply, without drama or threat, a statement of fact, like the sun rising in the east or water flowing downhill. Zora. Internal. He's not just saying it, he means it. Whatever happened to that person, it was bad. Jae-sun. Rest. We'll talk in the morning. Zora. About my investigation? Jae-sun. About what happens next. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Zora stood in the middle of the beautiful room, surrounded by luxury she couldn't afford, and the kindness of a man she'd been trying to expose, and finally let herself cry. She woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of rain against glass. For one blissful moment she'd forgotten. Just a woman waking up in an unfamiliar bed, disoriented but peaceful. Then reality crashed back in. Zora. Internal. My pictures are everywhere. My career is probably over. And I spent the night in a crime lord's penthouse. She found clothes in the closet as promised. Simple, elegant things in neutral colors that fit better than they had any right to. She chose black pants and a cream sweater, then followed the scent of coffee to the kitchen. Jae-sun was already there, dressed down in what must have been his version of casual, dark slacks and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms corded with lean muscle. He was reading something on a tablet, but looked up when she entered. Jae-sun. You slept? Zora. Surprisingly, yes. Jae-sun. Exhaustion can be merciful that way. Coffee? She nodded, and he poured her a cup without asking how she took it. When she reached for cream and sugar, he made no comment. Zora. I should go. I need to figure out what to do. Jae-sun. Have you checked your phone? Zora. I'm afraid to? Jae-sun. That's wise. The first 48 hours are usually the worst. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug, studying him over the rim. In daylight, without the drama of the gallery lighting, he looked younger, still dangerous, still all sharp edges and controlled power, but more human, somehow. Zora. You seem to know a lot about crisis management. Jae-sun. My family's business has required it from time to time. Zora. Your family's business. That's a diplomatic way to describe a criminal empire. He set down his tablet, giving her his full attention. Most people wilted under that gaze. Zora made herself hold it. Jae-sun. You're very direct for someone who spent the night under my roof. Zora. Would you prefer I pretend? Jae-sun. No, I find honesty refreshing. He paused. Even when it's wielded like a weapon. Zora. I'm not trying to fight you. Jae-sun. Aren't you? I thought that was the entire point. The investigation. The photographs of my painting. Zora. That was before. Jae-sun. Before I showed you mercy? And now you feel obligated to abandon your principles? His voice was cool, clinical, but she detected something underneath. A test. He was testing her. Zora. No. Now I realize I might have been wrong about you. Jae-sun. You weren't wrong. Everything you suspect about my family is probably true. We've done terrible things. I've done terrible things. Zora. Then why? Jae-sun. Because what was done to you is different. He leaned forward, intensity sharpening his features. You were violated by someone who was supposed to protect you. The photos on your phone, they were an act of trust, weren't they? You gave them to someone who made you feel safe. Her throat tightened. Yes. Jae-sun. And he turned that trust into a weapon, made your intimacy a spectacle for strangers to consume. His jaw flexed. That kind of betrayal, it's personal. It's cruelty for cruelty's sake. Zora. And your business isn't? Jae-sun. My business has rules. Honor among thieves, if you want to be poetic about it. We don't harm innocents. We don't betray our own. And we certainly don't. He stopped, reining himself in. What this man did is beneath contempt. Zora's heart was pounding. Not from fear, from something else entirely. The conviction in his voice. The anger on her behalf. No one had ever been angry for her like this. Zora. What are you going to do? Jae-sun. That depends. What do you want? Zora. What do I want? Jae-sun. Revenge, justice, closure. They're different things with different prices. Zora. I want him to pay. I want him to understand what he's taken from me. Jae-sun. Then give me 24 hours. Zora. To do what? He smiled then, and it was the most terrifying thing she'd ever seen. Not because it was cruel. It wasn't. It was almost gentle. The smile of a man who had just found something worth protecting. Jae-sun. To show him what happens when you hurt what's mine? Zora. I'm not yours. Jae-sun. No. But tonight you were under my protection, and that's enough. He picked up his phone and pressed a single button. Jae-sun. Jin. I need everything you can find on Marcus Webb. Every secret, every crime, everything he's ever tried to hide, and I need it by midnight. Act 2. The tension ink. Jin looked up from his screens, thin-framed glasses reflecting lines of code and data. Jin. You want me to destroy a man for a woman you just met? Jae-sun. I want you to find information. What I do with it is my concern. Jin. Is it? Because in 20 years, I've never seen you take a personal interest in someone's domestic difficulties? Jae-sun turned from the window, his expression unreadable. Is there a problem? Jin. Several, actually. First, we're in the middle of negotiating the Busan port access, which requires every bit of leverage we have. Jae-sun. This won't affect that. Jin. Second, this Marcus Webb is American, a banker with connections to some very important people we do business with. Jae-sun. Then they'll learn that doing business with us comes with certain standards. We don't protect men who prey on women. Seo-jin leaned back in his chair, studying his oldest friend with new eyes. Seo-jin. Who is she, Jae-sun? Jae-sun. Nobody. Seo-jin. You don't pull resources for nobody. Jae-sun. She's a journalist. She was investigating the gallery. She got caught in something she didn't deserve. Seo-jin. And you brought her home. To your home. Silence stretched between them. Seo-jin. The men are talking. Word spreads fast in our world. Jae-sun. Let them talk. Seo-jin. They're saying you found a weakness. Jae-sun. Then they're wrong. But something flickered in his eyes, and Seo-jin saw it. The same thing he'd seen at 19, when they'd both been foolish boys trying to survive in a world of wolves. The thing that had almost gotten Jae-sun killed. Hope. Seo-jin. I'll have everything by midnight, but Jae-sun... He waited until his friend met his eyes. Be careful. Whatever you're feeling, it can be used against you. Jae-sun. I know what I'm doing. Seo-jin. That's what you said in Macau. I had to dig a bullet out of your shoulder because of what you knew in Macau. Jae-sun touched his collar absently, where the scar lived under expensive fabric. Jae-sun. This is different. Seo-jin. Is it? Or is she just another puzzle you can't walk away from? Jae-sun. Seo-jin. Seo-jin. Fine. But when this blows up in your face, I reserve the right to say I told you so. Jae-sun. Noted. He left the office, already composing the next steps in his mind. Seo-jin was right about one thing. This was personal in a way nothing had been for years. He just couldn't bring himself to care. Zora had made a decision. She wasn't going to hide. The photos were out there. Nothing she did would erase them from the internet, from people's memories, from the permanent record of her humiliation. But she could control the narrative. She'd spent the morning writing, the words pouring out of her like blood from a wound. Not the investigation piece. That would come later if it could still come at all. But something else. Something personal. 3 days ago, my ex-boyfriend leaked intimate photos that I shared with him during our relationship. I trusted him with my body, my vulnerability, my love. He repaid that trust with cruelty. Her phone sat dark and silent on the coffee table. She couldn't bring herself to turn it on yet, but she didn't need to. She knew what was happening out there. The comments, the shares, the men who felt entitled to dissect her body, and the women who blamed her for trusting the wrong person. I refuse to be ashamed. I refuse to be defined by someone else's choice to betray me. The door opened behind her. Jae-sun, you're working. She didn't turn around. I'm writing. Jae-sun, something for publication? Zora, an essay about what happened, about refusing to let it destroy me. He came around the couch, and she felt more than saw him pause to read over her shoulder. His proximity should have made her uncomfortable. Instead, it felt almost grounding. Jae-sun, it's good. Zora, you can tell from half a paragraph? Jae-sun, I can tell from your voice. You're angry, but you're not drowning in it. You're using it. She finally looked up at him. He'd changed, still in black, but less formal now. The white shirt was gone, replaced by a dark sweater that made him look almost approachable. Almost. Zora, did you find what you were looking for? Jae-sun, Seo-jin is working on it. These things take time. Zora, and in the meantime? Jae-sun, in the meantime, you stay here, where it's safe. Zora, I can't hide forever. Jae-sun, I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to wait. There's a difference. She set her laptop aside, studying him. In the gray light of the rainy afternoon, he looked tired. Human. Zora, can I ask you something? Jae-sun, you've already asked me several things. Most people aren't brave enough. Zora, most people aren't sitting in your living room wearing your clothes. That almost smile again. Fair point? Ask. Zora, The painting at the gallery. Why did you care so much about what I thought of it? He was silent for a long moment, his gaze drifting to the rain-streaked windows. Jae-sun. Park Min-ho was my father's favorite artist. He had 3 of his paintings in his study when I was a child. I used to stare at them for hours, trying to understand what I was seeing. Zora. Did you? Jae-sun. Eventually, Min-ho painted destruction. But not just that. He painted what comes after. The pause between the ending and the beginning. The moment when everything is broken and you have to decide whether to rebuild. Zora. That's what you saw in Descent. Jae-sun. That's what everyone should see, but most people only see the violence. They miss the hope. Zora pulled her legs up beneath her, turning to face him fully. Is that why you're helping me? Because you see me as... what? Broken? Jae-sun. No. His voice was firm. I see you as someone standing in the pause, someone who hasn't decided yet what comes next. Zora. And what do you think I should decide? Jae-sun. I think you already have. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. Dinner arrived without explanation, delivered by silent staff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Zora. Do you always eat like this? Jae-sun. Like what? Zora. Like you're in a 5-star restaurant that happens to be in your living room. He glanced down at the spread before them. Grilled fish, seasonal vegetables, rice prepared 3 different ways, simple by his standards. Jae-sun. I forget sometimes what normal looks like. Zora. When did you last eat at a food stall or order takeout that came in cardboard containers? Jae-sun. I don't remember. Zora. That's sad. Jae-sun. Is it? Zora. The best meal I ever had was tteokbokki from a cart in Myeongdong. I was 22, just arrived in Korea for my first journalism fellowship, and I was so broke I could only afford street food. Jae-sun. And that was the best meal? Zora. It wasn't about the food. It was about the freedom. Being somewhere new, being nobody, having everything ahead of me. She paused, something shadowing her eyes. I wonder if I'll ever feel like that again. Jae-sun. You will? Zora. You sound very certain. Jae-sun. I've seen people come back from worse. Zora. Have you? He set down his chopsticks, giving her the weight of his attention. When I was 23, my father was killed by a rival family. I was thrown in prison for a crime I didn't commit. They kept me there for 8 months before my family could negotiate my release. Zora. Internal? He's telling me this, voluntarily. Why? Zora. What crime? Jae-sun. Murder. Apparently, I killed the head of the Choi family in a fit of rage, except I was in Tokyo at the time, which made it difficult. Zora. Someone framed you? Jae-sun. Someone wanted me out of the way while they dismantled everything my father built. They almost succeeded. Zora. What happened? Jae-sun. Seo-jin happened. He was still in graduate school, computer science, but he spent 8 months finding the evidence that cleared me. When I got out, he trailed off, and Zora saw something she never expected to see on his face. Grief. Old and scarred over, but still there. Jae-sun. When I got out, I made sure no one would ever be able to touch my family again. Zora. The people who framed you? Jae-sun. They learned that some debts cannot be forgotten. The same words he'd used last night. Now she understood them differently. Zora. You're telling me this because you want me to know you understand. Jae-sun. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that survival is a choice. Every day, even when everything is dark, you choose to keep going. Zora. And if I don't want to? If I just want to give up? He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. The touch was light, barely there, but it sent electricity racing up her arm. Jae-sun. Then I'll choose for you. until you're ready to choose for yourself. Daniel Shin had a face that made people trust him. Soft features, dimples that appeared when he smiled, eyes that crinkled with warmth. It was all a lie, of course. Daniel was the deadliest person in the Kwon organization, precisely because no one ever saw him coming. Daniel. So let me understand. You want me to take a break from actual work to investigate some American banker because he hurt your girlfriend's feelings? Jae-sun. She's not my girlfriend. Daniel. Right. You just brought her home, let her wear your clothes, made Seo-jin pull her ex's entire digital footprint. Totally normal stranger behavior. Jae-sun. Daniel. I'm not judging. She's beautiful. I saw the pictures. Jae-sun moved so fast, Daniel barely had time to register it. One moment he was lounging, the next he was pinned against the wall, Jae-sun's forearm across his throat. Jae-sun. You looked at her? Daniel. I looked at the situation. I needed to understand what we're dealing with. Despite the pressure on his windpipe, Daniel's smile never wavered. Relax, Hyung. I didn't look for long. Jae-sun. You shouldn't have looked at all. Daniel. No? Then why are we doing this? The question hung in the air. Jae-sun released him, stepping back, his hands clenching at his sides. Daniel. I've known you 15 years. You don't do things without reason. So what's the reason here? What is this woman to you? Jae-sun. I don't know yet. Daniel. Ah. Daniel straightened his suit, still smiling. That's even more dangerous than I thought. Jae-sun. Will you help or not? Daniel. Of course I'll help. Seo-jin handles information. I handle everything else. He pulled up a file on the nearest screen. Marcus Webb, Princeton grad, MBA from Wharton, currently managing director at Pacific Capital Partners. 2 ex-wives, both of whom signed aggressive NDAs, several complaints at his previous employer that were quietly settled. Jae-sun. What kind of complaints? Daniel. The kind that get women paid off and men promoted. He's got a pattern, your friend's ex. Always dating younger, always documenting, always punishing them when they leave. Jae-sun. Zora wasn't the first. Daniel. Zora wasn't even the 5th, but she is the first one to have a Korean crime boss in her corner. Daniel's smile sharpened. What do you want to do with this information? Jae-sun. I want to make it public. All of it. Every secret. Every crime. Everything he's ever tried to hide. Daniel. That can be arranged, but it'll burn bridges. Pacific Capital has friends in the Korean banking sector. Jae-sun. I don't care. Daniel. You should. We have a shipment coming through next week that requires their cooperation. Jae-sun. Find another way. Daniel studied him for a long moment, then laughed, a genuine sound of surprised delight. Daniel. You really don't care. You'd risk millions for a woman you just met. Jae-sun. Is that a problem? Daniel. For you? Probably. For me, it's the most interesting thing you've done in years. He turned back to his screens. I'll have everything ready by morning. But Jae-sun? Jae-sun. What? Daniel. When this is over, you're going to have to figure out what she means to you before someone figures it out for you. Zora couldn't sleep. She'd tried. Spent hours staring at the ceiling of the beautiful guest room, listening to the rain and the distant hum of the city below. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's face, his smile when he'd first told her she was beautiful, his hands taking the photos he'd promised were just for him. Trust me, baby. I just want something to remember you by when I travel. Trust. She'd given it so freely, and he'd turned it into a weapon. She found herself padding through the dark penthouse, following a sliver of light to what turned out to be a study. Books lined the walls, philosophy, history, economics, poetry, and in the center, behind a massive desk, sat Jae-sun. He looked up when she entered, unsurprised. Jae-sun. You're awake. Zora. I could say the same about you. Jae-sun, I don't sleep much. Zora, neither do I anymore. She came closer, studying the papers spread across his desk. Financial documents, from what she could tell. Legitimate business mixed with whatever he'd rather she didn't see. Zora, you don't hide your work from me. Jae-sun, should I? Zora, most criminals would. Jae-sun, I'm not most criminals. And you're not most journalists. She laughed, a surprised, genuine sound that felt foreign in her throat. No? What kind of journalist am I? Jae-sun, the dangerous kind. The kind who looks at a painting and sees both the violence and the hope. He stood, coming around the desk until they were face to face, close enough that she could see the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. Zora, you're worried about something. Jae-sun, I'm always worried about something. It comes with the territory. Zora, is it me? Am I causing problems for you? He didn't answer immediately, and that was answer enough. Zora, I should go. Find somewhere else to stay. I have friends who could... Jae-sun, no. Zora, Jae-sun. Jae-sun, I said no. His hand came up, and for a moment she thought he might touch her face. Instead, he let it fall, clenching at his side. Stay, please. Zora, why? Jae-sun, because when you're here, I remember why any of this matters. Visual cue. Intimate close-up of Jae-sun and Zora in dark study, illuminated only by desk lamp, their faces inches apart, his hand raised near her cheek but not touching, both breathing heavily, tension and longing visible in their expressions. Korean man, 32, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes showing vulnerability for once, black clothing. Black woman, 27, dark skin, natural curly hair, big expressive eyes, looking up at him with mixture of fear and desire. Photorealistic, romantic tension, dramatic shadows, 8K, movie still quality. Zora, what do you mean? Jae-sun, I've spent years building walls, making myself untouchable, unreachable. It was necessary, for protection, for survival. But somewhere along the way, I forgot what I was protecting. Zora, and I reminded you? Jae-sun, you walk into rooms full of predators and refuse to be prey. You have every reason to be broken, and instead, you're writing essays about refusing to be ashamed. You look at me. He stopped, shaking his head. You look at me like I'm a person, not a monster, not a target, just a person. Zora, you are a person. Jae-sun, most people don't believe that. Zora, I'm not most people. The air between them felt charged, electric with possibility. Zora's heart was racing, her skin suddenly too tight, too aware of every inch of space between them. Zora, internal. This is insane. He's everything I should run from, everything I came here to expose. But when he looked at her, she raised her hand, mirroring his earlier motion, and pressed her palm against his chest. Beneath the fabric, she could feel his heart pounding, a rhythm that matched her own. Zora, your heart's racing. Jae-sun, you have that effect on me. Zora, is that good or bad? Jae-sun, I don't know yet. She should step back, put distance between them, remember who she was, who he was, all the reasons this was a terrible idea. Instead, she stretched up on her toes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, questioning. But then his hand came up to cup her face, and something in him seemed to break. He kissed her like a man who'd been waiting his whole life for exactly this moment, like she was the answer to questions he'd been afraid to ask. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. Jae-sun. Zora. Zora. I know, this is crazy. Jae-sun. This is the sanest thing I've ever done. Zora. How can you say that? We barely know each other. Jae-sun. I know everything that matters. I know you're brave and smart, and so strong it scares me. I know you see past every mask I've ever worn. I know that when I'm with you, I feel like I could be someone worth knowing." His words wrapped around her heart, warming places that had gone cold. "Zora, if we do this, whatever this is, there's no going back. Jae-sun, I never intended to go back." She kissed him again, and this time, neither of them held anything back. Act 3. The breaking point. Zora woke to the sound of raised voices. Not Jae-sun, he never raised his voice, but whoever was on the other end of his phone call was clearly upset. She could hear the tinny sound of shouting through the speaker as Jae-sun stood by the window, his bare back a study in controlled tension. "Jae-sun, that's not acceptable." More shouting. "Jae-sun, I don't care what the board thinks. The deal was contingent on their cooperation, and they broke first." A long pause. "Jae-sun, then let them walk. We'll find other partners." He ended the call with a sharp jab and stood motionless, staring out at the city. "Zora. Trouble?" He turned, and his expression softened when he saw her, a transformation so swift it took her breath away. This was a man who could go from cold rage to warmth in the space of a heartbeat, but only for her. Only for her. "Jae-sun. Nothing you need to worry about." "Zora. Liar." A ghost of a smile. "It's business. Someone made a bad decision, and now they're facing consequences." "Zora. Consequences you're causing?" He came back to the bed, sitting on the edge, his hand finding her ankle under the covers. "Jae-sun. Does it matter?" "Zora. It might. I'm still a journalist." "Jae-sun. You're more than that now." "Zora. Am I? What am I?" The question was genuine. In the span of a few days, her entire life had shifted on its axis. She'd come to Seoul to write an exposé on art world corruption. Now she was in bed with the man at the center of it all. "Jae-sun. You're whatever you want to be. That hasn't changed." "Zora. And if what I want to be is someone who writes the truth about people like you?" "Jae-sun. Then I'll give you access no one else has. On the record or off, your choice." "Zora. Why would you do that?" "Jae-sun. Because the truth about me isn't as simple as headlines suggest. And because I trust you to see that." Trust. There was that word again. The word that had destroyed her life and now seemed to be rebuilding it in ways she never expected. Her phone buzzed. She'd finally turned it on that morning, bracing for the worst. But this notification wasn't another vulture circling her humiliation. It was a Google alert, not for her name, for Marcus's. "Zora. What did you do?" She opened the link with trembling fingers. Breaking. Pacific Capital Managing Director Marcus Webb, exposed in massive scandal. Criminal records, financial fraud, and pattern of sexual misconduct revealed. The article was everywhere, every major outlet, every news feed, every platform that had gleefully shared her photos just days ago. But this time, the target wasn't her. Every secret Marcus had ever kept was laid bare. Tax fraud dating back to his first marriage, embezzlement from his college fraternity, 3 sexual assault allegations settled with NDAs, a drunk driving incident that had been covered up by family connections, evidence of insider trading, screenshots of conversations with other victims, financial ties to individuals currently under federal investigation, and at the bottom of each article, a statement. To everyone who downloaded and shared intimate photos of journalist Zora Chen without her consent, you participated in the violation of a private citizen for the amusement of a predator. Ask yourself what kind of person that makes you. Zora looked up from her phone, tears streaming down her face. "Zora, you did this." Jae-sun. "I told you, 24 hours. Zora. How? How is this even possible? Jae-sun. When you have resources and motivation, very few things are impossible. Zora. This is everything. Every crime he's ever committed. Things that could put him in prison. Jae-sun. That's the intention. Zora. People will know. People will figure out this came from you. Jae-sun. Let them. Zora. Jae-sun. He took her hands, stilling their trembling. Jae-sun. He hurt you. He tried to destroy you for the sin of moving on with your life, and he did it because he believed there would be no consequences, that he could wield his power against someone with less, and no one would stop him. Zora. And you stopped him? Jae-sun. I showed him that there's always someone with more power, and that power comes with responsibility. She should be horrified. This was vigilante justice at its most extreme. A crime lord dismantling a man's life because he'd hurt someone who mattered. But looking at the articles, seeing Marcus's carefully constructed facade crumble, she felt nothing but vindication. Zora. He's going to know it was you. Jae-sun. Yes. Zora. He'll come after you. Jae-sun. He can try. Zora. This could start a war. Jae-sun. Then let it. He said it with such certainty, such complete disregard for his own safety, that she finally understood. Jae-sun. You would burn it all down, everything you've built. For me. He lifted her hands to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. Jae-sun. I told you. Some debts cannot be forgotten, but what I didn't tell you is that some people are worth any price. Zora. You barely know me. Jae-sun. I know enough. Zora returned to the gallery a week later. She told herself it was for the investigation, the story she still intended to write in some form. But really, she just wanted to see the painting again. Descent. It looked different now. The violence was still there, the chaos of blacks and reds, but she could see the hope Jae-sun had spoken of, the way the colors twisted toward light at the edges, the sense that destruction was just the beginning of something new. Zora. Internal. Is that what this is? Destruction and renewal? Marcus was in custody. The FBI had moved faster than anyone expected. The evidence against him too overwhelming to ignore. He'd been denied bail. Flight risk, the judge said, given his international connections. He wouldn't be hurting anyone else for a very long time. And Zora? Her essay had gone viral. Not for the reasons she'd feared, not as an addendum to her humiliation, but as a rallying cry. Women around the world were sharing their own stories, standing together against the weaponization of intimacy. She'd become a symbol, despite herself. A survivor who refused to be defined by her trauma. But she was still a journalist, still committed to truth. And the truth about the Kwon Syndicate was complicated. Zora. Internal. They're criminals, they've done terrible things, but they also have lines they won't cross, rules that make them almost honorable. Footsteps echoed behind her. Stranger. Pretty picture? She turned, expecting Jae-sun, and found someone else entirely. The man was tall, lean, with the kind of forgettable face that belonged to someone who preferred not to be remembered. But his eyes were memorable, cold and calculating in a way that made Jae-sun look warm by comparison. Stranger. You must be the journalist everyone's talking about, the one who's got Kwon Jae-sun dancing like a puppet on strings. Zora. I don't know what you're talking about. Stranger. No, he destroyed an American banker for you, cost himself millions in lost partnerships, made enemies he didn't need to make, all for a woman he met at a party. The stranger stepped closer, and every instinct Zora had screamed danger. Stranger. You've made him weak, predictable, and in our world, that's a death sentence. Zora. Who are you? Stranger. Someone who's been waiting a very long time for Jae-sun to make a mistake. His hand moved toward his jacket, and then Jae-sun was there. Emerging from shadows Zora hadn't even noticed, placing himself between her and the stranger with a predator's smooth grace. Jae-sun. Kim Dong-woo. I wondered when you'd crawl out of whatever hole you've been hiding in. Dong-woo. 10 years is a long time to wait for revenge. But you know all about patience, don't you? You taught me that when you killed my father. Jae-sun. Your father tried to kill me first. He just wasn't good enough. Dong-woo. And now you've finally given me something to take from you in return. His eyes slid to Zora, and she felt ice down her spine. Dong-woo. She's pretty. I can see why you risked everything. But that's the problem with love, isn't it? It makes us stupid. Jae-sun. Walk away, Dong-woo. I'm giving you one chance. Dong-woo. Generous, but I think I'll pass. He pulled a gun. Jae-sun moved. The next few seconds were chaos. Jae-sun deflected the gun hand, the weapon discharging into the ceiling. Plaster rained down as the two men grappled, and Zora pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding. Zora. Internal, he's protecting me, putting himself between me and a bullet. Dong-woo was strong, but Jae-sun was faster. A twist, a strike, and suddenly Dong-woo was on his knees, Jae-sun's arm locked around his throat. Jae-sun. I should kill you now. Dong-woo. Then do it. But know that I'm not alone. There are others who know about your weakness. They'll come for her. Jae-sun. Let them try. Dong-woo. They will. And eventually, you'll fail. No one can protect someone forever. The words hung in the air, a prophecy of violence to come. Jae-sun's arm tightened, and for a moment, Zora thought he would do it. Kill this man right here in front of her and deal with the consequences later. But then his eyes found hers, and something shifted. Jae-sun. Get on your knees. Dong-woo. What? Jae-sun. I'm not going to kill you, not because you don't deserve it, but because she's watching, and I won't make her witness my worst self. He shoved Dong-woo to the ground. But hear this. If anyone touches her, I will burn your entire world to ashes. Everyone you've ever loved, everything you've ever built. There will be nothing left but memory and regret. Dong-woo. Pretty words? Jae-sun. They're not words. They're a promise. Security arrived moments later, men in black suits who clearly worked for Jae-sun, not the gallery. They took Dong-woo away without comment, leaving Jae-sun and Zora alone among the art. Zora. You were going to kill him. Jae-sun. Yes. Zora. But you didn't. Jae-sun. No. Zora. Because of me? He turned to face her, and she saw the truth written on his features, the love he hadn't admitted yet, and the fear that came with it. Jae-sun. Because I don't want you to see me as a monster. I don't want you to look at me and see only death. Zora. What do you want me to see? Jae-sun. A man. Flawed, dangerous, capable of terrible things, but also capable of change. Because of you. She crossed the space between them, taking his face in her hands. Zora. I see you, Jae-sun. All of you, the light and the dark. Jae-sun. And you're not afraid? Zora. I'm terrified, but not of you. Jae-sun. What then? Zora. Of losing you. His arms came around her, holding her close, his face buried in her hair. Jae-sun. You won't, I swear to you. Whatever comes, I'll protect you. Zora. I don't need you to protect me. Jae-sun. I know, but I want to. Let me. Zora. Where are we going? Jae-sun. A safe house, one of several I maintain for emergencies. Zora. Is this an emergency? Jae-sun. Dong-woo mentioned others. People who know about us. I need to figure out who and how many before I can neutralize the threat. Zora. Neutralize. Jae-sun. Would you prefer I use softer words? Zora. I'd prefer you be honest. He was quiet for a moment, watching the rain streak the windows. Jae-sun. Some of them will have to die. There's no way around it. When you threaten someone precious, you forfeit your right to mercy. Zora. And if I asked you not to? Jae-sun. Then I would find another way. But Zora... He turned to look at her, his expression grave. Some of these people will never stop. They'll keep coming until one of us is dead. I would rather it be them than you. Zora. And if it's you? Jae-sun. Then I'll have died protecting something worth dying for. The words hit her like a physical blow. This man, this dangerous, powerful, complicated man, was ready to give his life for her, and somehow, in the space of a week, she'd come to feel the same. Zora, don't die. Jae-sun, that's the plan. Zora, I mean it, Jae-sun. Whatever happens next, however we handle this, I need you to survive it. Jae-sun, why? Zora, because I think I might love you, and I'm not ready to lose someone else. His breath caught, his hand found hers in the darkness. Jae-sun, say it again. Zora, I think I might. Jae-sun, no, the first part. Zora, I love you. He pulled her closer, his lips finding hers in the dim light of the moving car. Jae-sun, I love you too, more than I knew was possible. Act 4, the climax. Naomi, let me get this straight. You're sleeping with a crime lord, living in a safe house, and you want us to... what? Be happy for you? Zora's best friend had arrived that morning, fury radiating from every perfectly styled inch of her. Naomi Brooks didn't do anything quietly, including expressing disapproval. Zora, I'm asking you to understand. Naomi, understand? Girl, you've lost your mind. This man could have you killed on a whim. Zora, he won't. Naomi, you've known him for a week. Imani. Naomi, Imani's quiet voice cut through the tension. Zora's other friend stood by the window, watching the exchange with her usual thoughtful expression. Imani, let her explain. Naomi, explain what? That she's throwing away everything she worked for to play Mafia princess? Zora, that's not fair. Naomi, neither is disappearing for 3 days while your best friends lose their minds worrying about you. The accusation landed like a blow. Zora had been so caught up in everything, Marcus, Jae-sun, the attack at the gallery, that she'd barely thought about the people she was leaving behind. Zora, you're right. I'm sorry. Naomi, I don't want your apology. I want you to come home. Zora, I can't. Not yet. There are people who want to hurt me to get to Jae-sun, and until he handles that... Naomi, until he handles it. Do you hear yourself? You're talking about murder like it's a business meeting. Imani, Naomi, stop. Both women turned to look at her. Imani pushed off from the window, crossing to stand between them. Imani, I've been watching Zora's face while you shout. You know what I see? Naomi, brainwashing? Imani, peace. For the first time since Marcus destroyed her, she looks like herself again. She turned to Zora. You love him? Zora, yes. Imani, and he loves you? Zora, he does. Imani, then that's all that matters. Naomi, are you insane? He's a criminal. Imani, and Marcus was a banker. Which one actually hurt her? The question hung in the air. Naomi opened her mouth, closed it, and finally sank onto the nearest chair. Naomi, I hate this. Zora, I know. Naomi, I hate that you're in danger. I hate that there's nothing I can do. I hate that some part of me understands why you're choosing this. Zora, then help me, both of you. I have a plan, but I can't do it alone. SEO Jin, we've identified 6 primary threats. Dongwoo was just the beginning. He's been building a coalition of families who have grievances against us. Jae-sun, their demands? SEO Jin, they want the woman. Dead or delivered, they're not particular. Daniel, how generous of them. Jae-sun, that's not an option. SEO Jin, I know, which is why I've been working on alternatives. He pulled up a series of images. These are their holdings, businesses, properties, family members. Oh, each of them has something they care about more than revenge. Jae-sun, you're suggesting we threaten their families. SEO Jin, I'm suggesting we make them understand the cost of aggression. Jae-sun, there are lines I won't cross. Daniel, since when? Jae-sun, since now. Daniel and Seo-jin exchange glances. Daniel, she's changing you. Jae-sun, is that a problem? Daniel, it might be. Mercy is a luxury in our world. Jae-sun, then I'll build a world where it isn't. Seo-jin, that's very idealistic for a man who's killed more people than he can count. Jae-sun, perhaps I'm tired of counting. The door opened, and Zora walked in. All three men turned, but Jae-sun moved first, crossing to meet her. Jae-sun, you shouldn't be here. Zora, I shouldn't be anywhere, apparently, but here I am. Jae-sun, this is business. Zora, this is my life. I have a right to be part of decisions that affect it. He studied her face, something softening in his expression despite the circumstances. Jae-sun, what do you want? Zora, to end this, permanently, without more bloodshed than necessary. Daniel, that's a nice sentiment. Zora, it's not a sentiment, it's a plan. She moved past Jae-sun to the table, pulling out her phone. Zora, these men want revenge because they think you're weak, because they think your feelings for me are a vulnerability. So let's prove them wrong. Seo-jin, how? Zora, by making them understand that protecting me doesn't make you weak. It makes you more dangerous than ever, because now you have something to fight for. She pulled up a series of files. Zora, I'm a journalist. I spent 3 months investigating your organization. In that time, I gathered information on everyone you do business with, including the families threatening us now. Jae-sun, Zora? Zora, I know things they don't want public, secrets that would destroy them just as thoroughly as you destroyed Marcus. And I'm willing to use them. Daniel, you'd burn your journalistic integrity? Zora, I'd protect the people I love. The room went silent. Jae-sun's eyes hadn't left her face. Jae-sun, this isn't who you are. Zora, no, this is who I'm choosing to become for you. 6 men sat across from Jae-sun. 6 families, 6 potential wars. Dong-woo was among them, face bruised from their encounter at the gallery, hatred burning in his eyes. Dong-woo, you bring the woman to this meeting? Are you trying to insult us? Jae-sun, I bring her because she's the subject of this discussion. She has a right to be heard. Elder leader, she has no rights here. She's an outsider. Worse, a journalist. Her presence is an offense. Zora, Mr. Park Sang-cheol, isn't it? Your family has controlled the Gangnam Entertainment District for 3 generations. Very impressive. She smiled pleasantly. It would be a shame if anyone found out about your son's indiscretions at that club in Itaewon last year. The elder man's face went pale. Zora, or you, Mr. Choi. Your wife doesn't know about the second family you maintain in Busan, does she? 3 children. The oldest is almost 12. Choi half rose from his seat, reaching for his weapon. Jae-sun, I wouldn't. 4 of Jae-sun's men materialized from the shadows, weapons drawn. Jae-sun, sit down, Choi. Let the lady finish. Choi sat, trembling with fury. Zora continued around the table, naming secret after secret, scandal after scandal. Things that had been buried for years. Things that would destroy careers, families, legacies. Zora, I've spent years cultivating sources, following leads, building a picture of how power really works in this city. I never intended to use it like this, but you've forced my hand. Dong-woo, you're bluffing. Zora, am I? She pulled out her phone, showing a prepared email. 1 tap, and everything I know goes to every major news outlet in Asia. Another tap, and copies are sent to your wives, your children, your business partners. Dong-woo, you wouldn't. Zora, Marcus Webb thought I wouldn't fight back either. He's currently facing 15 years in federal prison. The room fell silent. Jae-sun, here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw your threats against Zora. You're going to forget you ever thought about using her to hurt me. And in return, we'll all go back to business as usual. Elder Park. And if we refuse? Jae-sun. Then she sends the emails, and then I come for what's left. He stood, buttoning his jacket with deliberate calm. Jae-sun. You thought my feelings for her made me weak. You were wrong. My feelings for her make me more dangerous than I've ever been, because now I have something worth killing for. He extended his hand to Zora. Jae-sun. We're leaving. You have 24 hours to accept my terms. They walked through the rain, ignoring the cold, ignoring the world. Jae-sun. You were magnificent. Zora. I was terrified. Jae-sun. It didn't show. Zora. Good, because I was pretty sure Choi was going to shoot me for about 30 seconds there. Jae-sun. He wouldn't have gotten the chance. She believed him. After everything, she believed him completely. Zora. What happens now? Jae-sun. Now we wait. They'll accept the terms. They have too much to lose. And then... Zora. And then? Jae-sun. And then we build something new, together. She stopped walking, turning to face him. Rain plastered her hair to her face, but she didn't care. Zora. I want to write the story. Jae-sun. The story about me? Zora. The story about us. About how love can exist even in darkness. About how people can change. About how two people from completely different worlds can find each other. Jae-sun. That story could put you in danger. Zora. I'm already in danger. I might as well make it count. He laughed, a genuine, surprised sound that transformed his face. Jae-sun. You're impossible. Zora. You love it. Jae-sun. I love you. He kissed her there, in the middle of a Seoul street, rain falling around them, the neon lights painting their skin in colors that shifted and changed. Jae-sun. Write your story. Tell the world. I'm done hiding what you mean to me. Zora. And the syndicate? Your business? Jae-sun. We'll adapt. It always has. Zora. You're risking everything. Jae-sun. No, I'm gaining everything. The article went live on a Tuesday morning. Inside the Kwon Syndicate, A Journalist's Journey from Investigation to Love, by Zora Chen. 6 weeks ago, I walked into an art gallery intending to expose corruption. Instead, I found something I never expected. A man who would burn his world down to protect me, and a truth far more complicated than any headline could capture. Jae-sun read over her shoulder, his coffee forgotten. Jae-sun. You used my real name. Zora. Is that a problem? Jae-sun. The board will have opinions. Zora. Do you care? He set down the coffee, turning her chair to face him. Jae-sun. No, I care about you. Everything else is negotiable. Zora. Even your empire? Jae-sun. Even that. Her phone buzzed. Messages were already flooding in, from editors, from sources, from strangers who saw their story as proof that love could exist anywhere. But the message she cared about most was from her mother. Baby, I don't understand all of it, but he makes you happy. That's all I ever wanted. Zora. My mom approves. Jae-sun. Should I be worried about meeting her? Zora. Terrified. She's tougher than any crime lord. Jae-sun. Then I'll bring gifts. Zora. She can't be bribed. Jae-sun. Everyone can be bribed. You just have to find the right price. Zora. And what's my price? He pulled her to her feet, wrapping his arms around her. Jae-sun. You're priceless. That's the problem. Zora. I think you can afford me. Jae-sun. I plan to spend the rest of my life trying. Outside, the city hummed with its eternal energy, deals being made, lives being lived, stories beginning and ending. Inside, two people who had found each other against all odds stood in silence, watching the lights come on one by one. Zora. What are you thinking about? Jae-sun. The painting. Descent. Zora. What about it? Jae-sun. You asked me once what I saw in it. Violence and hope, I said. The pause between destruction and renewal. Zora. I remember. Jae-sun. I think I finally understand what Minho was trying to capture. That moment when everything falls apart and you realize it's not the end. It's just the beginning of something you couldn't have imagined before. Zora. Is that what this is? The beginning? Jae-sun. For us? Yes. I think we're just getting started. She smiled, tilting her face up for a kiss. Zora. Then let's see where this story takes us. Jae-sun. Anywhere, everywhere, as long as it's together. The city spread out below them like a promise, full of danger and possibility, darkness and light. And in the space between heartbeats, two people who had nothing in common except the courage to fight for each other began their next chapter. Together. Whatever came next, they would face it the same way they'd faced everything else, with honesty, with fire, and with a love that refused to break.